Mr. Speaker, I've heard my friends on the minority side mention at press conferences that the Interior Minister should refund. Mr. Speaker, they did the same thing.
Minia Mamina was saying, I'm Honorable Mahama Ayariga, our majority leader, our Parliament, why expose NPP big time? Oh, children and saying, oh, here TikTok, oh, here Facebook, oh, here TV, so NPP before a year. Says you recruitment, Honorable Mutaka, any Ghana security service way or more AJ Edia Frimko for or more pay a human honor. Young refund says cano and farmer omo. A honor or refer or must say, and maybe a trouble must be the same thing. Nesikana moje ye edi free applicant no hono more refund ya na minua sa question we na Honorable Mahama Ayariga na obisa minority for no na Honorable Afenyo Markins ono so wodi anu yie ebae enti be kokotie asempotia Honorable Mahama Ayariga okan na ye wia ya hwe Honorable Kwamen Afenyo Markins ono so nanu yie a wodi ebae na ansa na be ko videos mienu no so no minua Edudzi ono so wo kan sembi o say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama one can say external factors be and say external shocks be ain't me affect Ghana. Na Ghana for some more omoka. To His Excellency John Dramani Mahama so no. No credit because on one kasa kukujina amano ne ekansa semono say external shocks be able to me affect country bia. In se Ghana for ye kasa asemu to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama so naturally say no credit. Na sa asemu ya okay. Obwa and I say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Okaye ana yenko na yenkuti Edudzi ona we amede Mahama Ayariga one Honorable Kwamen Afenyo Markins video no ebetwa so edia ma mestre wunya subscribe na subscribe edia ma like video yi na share ma wuni no nso onya bi enhwe meda wase yankopon nhira yenko he video no.
I think facts, like we lawyers, a fact is a fact. Yeah. You can have an opinion, but as for the fact, it's a fact. And like I always say, if you cannot be honest about it, at least be accurate. Yeah. President John Dramani Mahama has always been consistent about the influence of exogenous factors on our economy, no doubt. And that is why, even when he read the State of the Nation address when he was president first time, he made it abundantly clear that whatever happens in China impacts on us. And it has always been the NDC's politics. Even in 1999, remember there was a time in this country that it was the finance minister who gave us what the price of petrol would be. Yeah. There was a time in this country. I grew up to that situation. Our parents would be by the radio waiting to hear what the finance minister would say is the price of petrol. We witnessed that before. But the point ought to be made clear. President John Dramani Mahama at Harvard University abundantly admitted that COVID, in fact, had impact on global economies. However, in the specific case of Ghana, the 2020 election, brought about a budget deficit of 15%, the highest in the whole of West Africa. And President Mahama then questioned that how come that we had 15% and that it was election spending. Go and read his Harvard speech. So it is not true that President Mahama never, said COVID will have effect. No, but he said in your specific case, you were reckless. You wanted to win an election at all costs and therefore spend beyond your means. And so by 2021, immediately after the election, November, you wanted to introduce e-levy. On the 19th of November 2021, when you read the budget, you introduced e-levy. That was when the problem started. And so by July 1st, 2022, you had to go to the IMF.
Well, he says that
it had nothing to do. Please, it had nothing to do. We said
that we don't have to play politics of.
Please, we said it was because even though COVID ravaged global economies, you had over 21 billion Ghana cedis that came to you by reason of COVID. You said your revenue projection and loss was 14 billion Ghana cedis. You got 21. And that should have provided you enough buffer. Already, You have the World Bank giving you $630 million. You had your special drawing right of $1 billion. You had another $1 billion from the IMF, all put together 21 billion Ghana cedis. You had this opportunity, glorious opportunity. What did you do? You squandered it. Again, he makes the point about the taxes on petroleum products. President John Dramani Mahama in December 2015 introduced ESLA. ESLA was supposed to have only 5 years. What happened? You came and set up ESLA PLC and decided to use ESLA receivables for loans. Those loans are part of the, what they call the bonds, are part of the DDEP and all the matters with this. So how do you expect that today, when you have committed this country by reason of DDEP and other financial commitment, government should suddenly reduce?
Well, the argument he's making is that external factors and the way they play out in the global market affect our economy fundamentally because we're dependent on them.
We have always, that has always been the NDC politics. Look, Minister Setekwe had read the 2015 budget and given an indication that we'll be selling our crude for $85 per barrel. Within 3 months, crude prices fell from $85 to $40. When Minister Setekwe came for the revised budget and raised that issue, Dr. Bawumia downplayed it and said it was the mark of incompetence and reckless management of the economy at that time. And that was when he made that his famous statement that how come that global factors move from, Ivory Coast, Burkina and others and only came to Ghana. So when they then raised the issue about COVID-19, we retorted and said, but you guys never believed that global factors would impact on our economy. That's a fact. So today, if you come here and say, oh, President Mahama and never said global factors and this, what are we talking about?
This is his video.
Please.
On your own
I am not. That is what I'm telling you. He was in response to you. But let me even focus.
Where he says 6,700
let me focus.
When bombs are flying there, what has that got to do with Ghana? He did it.
You see,
please conclude for me. So
I'll tell you something. On the 4th of December, 2024, 3 days to the general election, okay, diesel sold at 15.8 Ghana cedis in this country. At that time, crude was selling at $70 per barrel. You were selling diesel at 15.80. Why? Because the exchange rate at that time was almost 16-14. That was why, even though crude was 70, you were still selling diesel for 15.80 at that time. With respect, Senior, you were a deputy minister. That should tell you the impact of Forex on general pricing. Because it was $70, but you were selling diesel for 15.80. You were selling petrol for 15.30. Even though crude was 70, because at that time, you could not manage the exchange rate well. Today, at the time when crude was doing $66, the maximum you could get petroleum product was 13 Ghana cedis. What does it tell you? Because of the management of the Ghana cedi. This is something you cannot run away from. These are facts. That is why I'm saying that you can express your opinion on those facts. But you cannot deny the factual. And when I speak, I give you the timeline too. Tuesday, 1st November 2022, diesel sold at 23.49 Ghana cedis. 23.49. 1st November 2022. It was a Tuesday. That was the window for November 2022. The first window. At that time, you sold diesel for 23.49. What was the price of crude at that time? Because the exchange rate at that time was doing what? 17 Ghana cedis. Because remember that we are just going to the IMF on the 1st of July 2022. Less than 4 months down the line, the exchange rate went to 17 cedis. Why? Because we were struggling with getting an IMF staff agreement. And two, there was issue about whether we have enough forex in the country. And so even though crude price was a bit better, the exchange rate at 17 shot diesel price to 23. These are facts. 1st November 2022. You can Google and check.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard my friends on the minority side mention at press conferences that the Interior Minister should refund. Mr. Speaker, they did the same thing, advertised, people paid, and they never refunded 1 Ghana cedis to anyone. I have Hansard of this house recording proceedings here when Ambrose Derry was also hauled before this house and asked the same question about refunding to the young people. He did not. He reserved the money. At that time, about 35 million Ghana cedis. It is there. It's in the Hansard. So you cannot be discussing refund now. Let's discuss how we can fix the economy so that jobs can be created for all these young people. Whatever stand you want to take today, we will show you that yesterday you took the stand that we are today and you had no problem with that. You can't all of a sudden overnight change position and say that, money should be refunded. How can money be refunded? Is that a solution? Is the young man looking for the money? The young man is looking for a job. He wants government to create a job for him. And that's what we must be doing, creating jobs. 200 Ghana cedis, if you refund it to him, what is he going to do with it? We promised every young person in this country that we will give them a fair opportunity. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are doing is simply giving every young person a fair opportunity. We could have just gone and gotten, our foot soldiers and just listed them and given them over the same way that the MPP did. But we are not doing that. We are not. We are not. We are giving every young person an opportunity. Now, if 500,000 and over people have applied, it shows the enormity and the problem of unemployment in this country that we need to fix. Because all they are doing is looking for a stable job. That's what these young people want. They just want a stable job. And a job in the security agencies appears to them to be a stable job.
When a system does not offer certainty, it must obviously be reviewed. When a system does not offer clarity, it must certainly be reviewed. But if we would always go back and say, oh, yesterday something happened, it was not good, so we shouldn't talk about it. Mr. Speaker, then what is the essence of a reset? Your slogan is reset, and I'm saying that you are now asking 200,000 people to go and pay 1,600 Ghana cedi each, when in fact you have only vacancy for 5,000. It means 195,000 people, Mr. Speaker, are going to pay 1,600. Multiply that. And Mr. Speaker, in the end, the desperate youth will be frustrated. We, the MPs, they will come to us for money to go and do medicals that they will never get the opportunity to get recruited. So, Mr. Speaker, if the majority leader's response to me is that, in fact, something happened during MPP era, so we should shut up, I hear him. It's a national issue that is affecting their own foot soldiers. But if the majority leader has this response for me, I have heard him.